slightly hungover, maybe slightly blue. Hello and welcome to Madonna's Lounge, where we discuss everything union. We are discussing the laws, the practices. We're giving practical tips on how do you form a union, how do you represent members, how to prepare grievances, and much, much more. I have gotten lots of feedback from you all for clarification, and you find that the podcast is very helpful in making your work a lot more easier. So today will be the same. Today I'm going to be discussing the importance of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which is often referred to as OSHA. OSHA was actually formed in 1971. OSHA was created by the passage of the Occupational Safety and Health Act. OSHA provides workplace health and safety protections to private sector workers. So again, if you're working for a private agency, an employer, this would be the agency that you would be calling. However, several states who do not have OSHA have similar laws for safety and health, and they tend to mimic what OSHA requires an agency to do. So for the most part, we now have, I believe, it's anywhere between 23 to 25 states that are covered by this federally approved OSHA laws. So when do you call OSHA? You call OSHA in if in fact you have first of all followed the protocol by letting the agency know that you believe that there's a violation, of course with proof, as I always say. You want to have your documents, you want to have your pictures, you want to have your videos, and also inquire if anybody in that particular area, anyone in that particular area might have been getting sick recently or have gotten sick and could not figure out what may be going on with them. Particularly people who suffer from asthma may have a problem with the flow of air in the facility and may not realize that because of the lack of flow of air or the fact that that vent has not been changed for a number of years, this may be causing their illness to exacerbate. So you want to inquire amongst your colleagues if in fact that has occurred. So you would definitely would get paperwork for that person that if they have gone to a doctor for any reason, I mean they've been coming to work feeling just fine, but find that they're getting respiratory infections and so forth, it could be a problem on the job. Now again, if you're not certain if that is, you do have a right to call in OSHA to check. Now within agencies and workplaces, there should be a chart that's usually kept by the fire inspector. Many agencies and employers do hire a fire inspector, and that basically is his or her job to make sure that these things are inspected yearly, sometimes twice a year, and once they're inspected, a date and time is placed on this chart, and it really should be public information. There's typically a small bulletin board that is placed on the hallways on particular floors that employees can certainly walk by and read to see when in fact um, there was an inspection. You know, it's pretty similar to a building calling for a fire drill once or twice a year. These things are protected so that, of course, employees, if there's an emergency, if there's a fire, they know who the fire inspectors are that are assigned to the floor. They know what exits they should be going through. They know how to proceed out of an office in an orderly manner instead of running and tripping and falling over each other. So these fire drills are put in place to make sure that workers are safe. It is quite similar with OSHA, right? So while the protection may vary from state to state, federal OSHA regulations and state programs have several similar laws and elements to cover their employees, right? So let's look at some of the things that definitely um, OSHA would be providing and you can report out on. So enforcement of those standards by the state health and safety inspectors. Okay? Employees' right to request an inspection if they think health and safety hazards are present at the workplace. Excuse me. The right to have a union representative accompany the inspector and be informed of the results of the inspection. Which means that when the inspector submits his or her report to the agency, the union has a right to request a copy of it. And typically that is given to the union. Remember, we talked in a previous episode about NLRA and NLRB, and the Supreme Court approved union requests for information, and this is one of those pieces of information. Protection of protection against discrimination for exercising these rights under OSHA. Standards for protection against safety, health, noise, chemicals, and radiation. Now, if you are working in a building where there's construction going on next door and is creating a lot of noise, that can be considered hazardous to one health. If you're working next to a building that is being demolished and there's dust in the air and management has not relocated you, that can also be a reason to call in OSHA. Okay, so those are two major examples of how OSHA can be used and how workers can certainly protect their rights. So let's have a short break and I'll be right back. Okay, and we are back. So let's continue. We talked about unions getting access to information, but not just unions. Individuals can request access to information. Now, for those shops that are not unionized, yes, management will give you a difficult time. However, if you know that OSHA came there, you can certainly request from OSHA that you're requesting a document, but certainly you can request from management first in writing to ask if you can see a copy of the report. Again, chemicals. The use of chemicals in the workplace is pretty rampant. You simply can detect that if, for example, you see the house cleaner coming around, right? And that individual is cleaning while you're still working at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and you begin to feel ill, and the smell bothers you. You have a right to make a request from management to find out what chemical is being used because you're getting a reaction from this chemical and adjustments can be made. But make sure you bring it to the attention of management and not be afraid to do so because, again, your health is at risk. So, health hazards can include, of course, like I just said, chemicals, which is a toxic substance, biological, bacteria, virus, etc. Okay, and again, if you realize that the place has not been cleaned every evening, the desk is not wiped down, the carpet is not being vacuumed, And again, people with asthma can be suffering from these things because if the floor is not being cleaned on a regular basis, if the shelves, if the desks, the phones, the counters are not being cleaned, these individuals with compromised systems, this can really greatly affect them. Okay, so be cognizant of your surroundings and make sure that you're paying attention to your environment. You just going to work, pulling up a chair and sitting down and thinking that everything is okay. It's not. I just wanted you to be very, very cognizant that when you do go to work, take a minute to wipe your chair down. You're using keyboards, wipe your keyboard down, get a pack of disinfectant wipes, keep it in your office, keep it at your desk. Wipe these things down because even if the housekeepers are coming through, I have observed, because I've worked late at night, I've observed people coming through and wiping one desk, taking that same rag and wiping another desk and wiping the phone. There is no way you can say that those areas that that person has wiped down would be clean and disinfected when they're using the same rag on each and every single table, chair, phone they are working on in that area. So do your own due diligence. Buy a container of wipes, keep it at your desk. You come in the morning, wipe your desk down, wipe your phone down, wipe your keypads down. Those things that you'll be touching all day. Wipe your chair handles down. And again, these are tips, common sense tips that I share in between my presentations, but these are tips that are really, really critical for your health and safety at the workplace. Okay? During the summertime, again, can be another OSHA issue. If there's not enough, if the place is not cool enough, the air conditioner is not on, but it's 90, 80, 90, 100 degrees outside, and it's not comfortable in the area to work, you have a right to report this to your employer. And it is their responsibility to get the proper air conditioning, the proper fans in that area to make it a safe area for you to work in. The same thing goes for when it's winter. If you are in an area where the seasons change like that, when it's cold, there should be sufficient heat. There is no reason for an employee to come in and have to wear a coat, a jacket, a vest, or even a sweater. When you come in, the temperature should be just right enough that you are comfortable just simply wearing your regular summer shirt in the office. Okay, all of these things, OSHA makes sure that companies and agencies are responsible for. So it is important that members, employees, as a whole, pay attention to these things. Okay? Radiation, again, for those of you who work in a hospital, make sure you have the proper equipment on. If you're working in an area where there's a lot of radiation going on, don't find yourself hanging out in these areas too long unless you are assigned to that particular area and you have to be there. But make sure, again, your equipment is the proper equipment. If you have equipment that's been used from 10 years ago, unlikely that that particular piece of equipment needs to be upgraded. Okay? It has to be upgraded, and you need to check the code. You need to speak to management about what is the policy, how often should something be upgraded, and make sure that you have the right equipment to actually do your work. And again, last but not least, the psychological stress of the job is an OSHA, something that you can call in OSHA again to investigate. Okay? Again, this is about your health. If there's too much noise, if there's funny smells, if there's not the proper equipment for someone to have when they're working, or not being provided proper equipment, whether it's boots, whether it's masks, right? Housekeepers using a lot of chemicals should be wearing masks. Uh, these things should be available for individuals who are working outside in the field. They may be climbers, they may be tree climbers, pruners. It's important for them to have the proper equipment, the belts, the buckles, the climbers. All of that can fall under OSHA, and any if you're in any other state, there are similar laws that protects you. The other thing we want to look at is safety hazards, which includes fires, explosions, emergencies, um, violent attacks by residents, patients and inmates, confined spaces uh, where toxic gases and oxygen deficiencies build up, and faulty machinery and equipment. All of these things can fall on the OSHA inspection. So we want to make sure that we pay attention to that. We want to make sure again the fire engineer who's working in that building, that the equipment, the fire extinguisher is working. That's their job. And again, once it's inspected, typically once a month, they are required to log the date that they have actually done the inspection. You can take a picture of it. If you feel that is not true, you haven't seen anyone, but you're in that area all the time, and you want to make sure it's investigated, you are welcome to do so. And last but not least, we want to look at what stewards can do. Again, stewards play a very important role, representatives play a very important role in enforcing these particular infractions, incidents, occurrences. Okay? So, number one, you want to make sure that you report any health and safety issues to the local health and safety committee. As I've said before, each organization should have a health and safety committee. And no, you don't have to be in a union shop, but particularly if you're in a union shop, the union should be part of this committee. Okay? Because again, you're representing members. Um, and again, this is an opportunity for you to talk about some of these health concerns that the members are bringing to you. The other thing you want to do is educate your workers again about health and safety hazards. It's important that everyone knows. So you might again want to discuss this at one of your meetings. Oftentimes, I find that this is not a particular regular topic in meetings that I've attended and have observed, um, where this is not being discussed. And it's only discussed when there's a crisis. No, you want to make sure that you discuss this in general so members working in their own units, working in their own areas, can be more observant about these things. Okay? Someone goes into the bathroom and they see the paint peeling off the wall. Okay? We don't know if there's lead in that paint, but it's been there for months, it's been there for years, but no one is mentioning it. And typically management does not use the same bathroom as their employees. They may have their own bathroom, right? And there are times they may even use the bathroom with the employees, but you know they may ignore it. You have a right to write a report as a worker that this is something that needs to look into. You want to again, whenever you discover an incident, tell the members to report it out to you, to make sure you're aware of it. When you have meetings with the members, lunchtime meetings, general membership meetings, exec board meetings, you want to discuss these things, right? Because these are things that can affect members' health. Of course, once you affect someone's health, then there's an issue, of course, with a larger absentee rate, people losing pay from their jobs, when in fact there are issues going on at the job that's more than likely affecting them. So, let's finish up. One of the things I would like to share with you is that you can certainly, again, I always say, do your own research, get some more information based on all the topics that I'm talking about. But again, the purpose of this podcast is to make sure I give you summaries of things that you can grab on to, hold on to, and still make an impact in terms of doing a presentation, in terms of gathering information, so that you can take it and feed it to your members, your co-workers, your brothers and sisters. So until next time, I will be seeing you back on Madonna's podcast. You have a wonderful day or evening, whatever time you are listening to this podcast.